How accountable will Florida State's players be in 2025? From Thomas Castellanos to the defense with Darrell Jackson and everybody in between, how accountable will Florida State be to get the victories they need to get this ship turned around?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I want to talk about accountability today, something that I think many Florida State fans on the YouTube page and many other locations, whether you follow War Chant, Noles 24/7, whatever it may be, there is a lot of different people talking about who's going to be accountable, who's going to be the leader, who's going to do all those things. And after spring, I did a little something like this, but this one is a little bit different. It's going to have a little twist to it. Going to have some stats, but I'm not going to dive into those quite as much today. It's going to be more subjective. And as always, I want to hear what Florida State fans have to think about it. I'm going to do offense and defense. We'll probably do a little more offense because I know people tend to want to talk about offense more, quarterback play, especially after last season. Considering what Florida State's history is, I get that because Florida State football should really not struggle to get quarterbacks based on the history, multiple Heisman winners, multiple guys that go on to the NFL and have a lot of success. It's pretty understandable why that is. So we're going to go with quarterback first, the first several questions, talking about it situationally, leadership, all those things. And then we'll break it down throughout the offensive line, skill players, and then get into the defense. Now, to wrap up the show, I'm going to talk a little bit about something I'm going to kind of mention now too, but the Alabama versus Florida State game, I'm going to bring this up constantly again, is ranked number 6 on one of the polls as far as most important games, regardless of schools involved for the 2025 season. That's pretty interesting to me. I saw that, just glanced over, didn't even pay attention to which network it was, and I don't even care, but it just brought up the point, like these rankings are a little bit here, a little bit there, and everybody's got their own reasoning for it. But if a game like that is number 6 overall nationally, and Florida State's a team that is coming off a 2-10 season like they are, it shows you what the brand is worth. If nothing else from this podcast, note, while Florida State was down last year, something horrible, they're still ranked number 6 on a game for next season. And for the record, it's from on 3. They got the Ohio State-Texas game, which is week 1, I do believe, as the number 1 game. That's not really a shock. But again, Florida State hosting Alabama the very first weekend, college football, is the number 6 game overall. So needless to say, Florida State is still a very, very relevant football program. And obviously Bama is too. So to be competitive in that game, let's start off with Thomas Castellanos. I've got a handful of questions. I got 5 to be exact that revolve around the quarterback situation. Here we go with number 1. Over under 8 interceptions. I've talked about this 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range before. I kind of go back and forth on it. But I want to add a little caveat to it right now that some people may not like, but hear me out. When Clemson finally got over the top and beat Alabama with Deshaun Watson, he had multiple games where he was probably forcing it too much. And his interception total was over 10 for the year. But they ended up winning the national title. If you're going to beat the Giant, you got to take some chances. Now, I'm not saying being overwhelmingly a risk taker, but Florida State needs somebody that's going to go out there and make plays, who has the ability to do so, and quite frankly, make those plays consistent enough that at least outweighs any turnovers, drops, anything of that nature. Thomas Castellanos has the arm strength and the experience to do that this year. I expect him now maybe to approach 10 interceptions, and it be a good thing. I know that is really, really weird to say. But if Thomas Castellanos is not pushing the ball down the field, which Florida State was just dreadful at last year, especially DJ, he either threw the bomb or he threw a check down, like he just kind of forced it, or he just took the easy throw. I don't think he saw the field real well. Then you had two young guys that just weren't ready for it. So Florida State was just in a horrid situation at quarterback, because if you don't push the ball down the field and have success with it, everybody just suffocates your running game. Let's put 7 in the box, play man defense or some shell defense. It's pretty basic. And then we'll rally to the ball. They're not going to move the ball down the field. And it worked all season long. Florida State must be able to push the ball down the field, even if Thomas Castellanos gets up over 8 picks on the year. And I mean, I don't want that to happen, but DBs are going to make plays too. They get scholarships as well at the other schools. It is what it is. You've got to rely on your defense sometimes to get you out of a hole if he throws a pick at midfield or something like that. But if he's not taking chances, especially against teams like Miami and Alabama and Florida, at NC State will be a tough game. They got to play at Clemson. If you're not taking shots in those games, Florida State's chances of winning probably aren't very good anyway. You have to be able to throw the ball down the field, do it consistently, and have the ability to back off the defense. So whether or not you go over or under 8, I think the bigger point here is still the same. Florida State's got to push the ball down the field, and Castellanos has got the arm to do it. So I'm cool if he does go over 8, and I think it'll be somewhere around that range, and I wouldn't be surprised if it hit double digits if Florida State actually has a lot of success. Again, I know that's odd, but just think about the overall principle. You got to throw the ball down the field. If you don't, teams come up and just stuff your run game. Second, 700 or more rushing yards, 700 or more for Thomas Castellanos. I would say yes, that he will surpass it, but there's a caveat to this as well. He has the capability of having a rushing game, and I'm not kidding when I say this because he's such a gifted athlete, of going for 225 in a game because he has a 70-yarder and an 80-yarder. He'll be as athletic as any player on the field almost every single time he's out there unless he's banged up. There might be 1 or 2 guys as athletic as him on the field at any given time, but it's going to be pretty rare. He is freak show. So it's not about totality, it's about consistency. Making the right reads on the RPOs. Sometimes, and I know this kind of sounds like a running back trait, but if there's not a lot there, get the 3 yards. Don't dance around. Don't go backwards. Don't hold the ball out. Don't get greedy. These are things that get running backs in trouble and get screamed at, and they make the Sports Center lead in. Get the 3 yards. Go down. Go to the next play. Not every play is a home run. Thomas used to be a little impatient with stuff like that because he was so physically dominant at the high school level, but now he's going to be a senior in college. I don't expect to see that. Sometimes 4 yards is what you're going to get. It is what it is. Again, the opposing team gives scholarships out too. It's cool. So while I think he will surpass 700, if he got 1,000, it wouldn't shock me, although I don't think they'll run him as quite as much as what BC did a couple of years ago. They just didn't have the same kind of horses Florida State does. I'm expecting to see a lot of games with him with 40, 50, 60 yards, and that's cool. Checkdowns to Squirrel and a bevy of running backs, including Gavin Sawchuk coming in from Oklahoma. Florida State doesn't have to force Thomas to run the ball out. But again, if he has a game with 225 yards rushing, would it shock me? No. He has the ability to make highlight reel plays that have absolutely, unequivocally nothing to do with coaching. He's just better than the guys in front of him, and he makes people miss. Freak show. So hopefully he'll have a few breakout games, but he also does not have games where he gets greedy because they're really suffocating on him, and he just has to kind of take that. He may have a game with 10 yards because they're playing to keep, and he's got to give all game. They're like, if the running backs beat us, the running backs beat us. That RPO action, sometimes you just got to be selfless, and I truly mean selfless. A lot of quarterbacks hate doing that because they want to score. They want to get the yards. They want to make the play. Sometimes the play is nothing, meaning for you it's nothing, but for the team it's 6 points as the running back goes through a gaping hole. You got to be able to do that, and I think this is the easiest one out of these questions for him. As a veteran, as a senior, as a leader, Thomas Castellanos should hit a home run in this department, and any team that wants to suffocate him, take away the outside run game on the RPO, or really kind of despise him for quarterback draws, counters, powers, any of that stuff, I think they'll have a caveat of what they can do in that maybe even run a little option to get the pressure off Thomas. And he may not have the ball in his hands, but Florida State's rushing the football with a bevy of running back, Jalen in space or whoever it may be. They can be pretty dangerous. So it's not his total that I'm really that concerned about. Number 3 is just a fun one. Just going to throw this out here just for fun. Over under on fourth quarter comebacks. I'm going to say 2 is needed at minimum, maybe 3 because they got several tough games. We'll talk a little bit about that later here in the show. But fourth quarter, Florida State, actually, like they won the Cal game last year doing that. We'll see if they can do that again this year. But it's something that Florida State needs to be better at overall from an offensive perspective. The defense bailed them out a couple times last year. Needs to be the other way around in 2025. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Castellanos and the offense here on Locked On Seminoles. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. For one thing, if you do it, it's just going to be easier to put everything under Monarch Money and their app because it's in one spot, so you don't have to think, where else would I have something I need to look at to kind of get an idea where all my money's at. Secondarily, you could also do that with your partner, your wife, or whoever it may be. That's up to you if you want to do it, but it is available. You can put everything underneath Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Here's a couple more questions about Castellanos versus those teams like Miami, Bama, Clemson, Florida, at NC State, in any other game where somebody just has a hot hand for the other team. And he has the ability to do a lot of different things with his arm talent, his legs, his experience, all those things. Do you feel good about Florida State in the moment? Is he going to be accountable in the moment when they really, let's say mid-third quarter, it's a 3-point game, they're at NC State, that's a crazy place to play. Does he play well enough there? It's not just scoring. It's distributing the football, and if the other team's defense does something good, sometimes you just got to rely on your defense. I say this all the time on this show here at Locked On Seminoles, as well as Locked On the Portal. Nick Saban used to tell his quarterbacks constantly, if a drive ends in a punt, a field goal, or an extra point, we're cool. If it ends in a turnover and you're responsible, that's no good. You have to be able to throw it away. Sometimes you have to be able to just get out of bounds. Whatever it is, do not turn the ball over. Just silly turnovers. If you throw one up, it's a 50-50 ball. You're at midfield and you're throwing it deep. Sometimes those happen. That's whatever. But when it's a situation you're forcing the ball and it's stupid, especially when you're deep in your own end, those kind of scenarios, that's where maturity and leadership comes in. I have a good feeling about Castellanos here. I don't think he's going to throw a lot of stupid passes, especially in his own end. And that's how you win football games. Yeah, the other team may get the ball in your territory to start the drive, but it's better than them getting a pick six or getting the ball inside your 20. You cannot turn the ball over deep in your own territory. Number 5, third down passing. Will it be at least 65%? And overall, the more important number, is he able, just with passes, I'm not talking about anything he does with his feet here, can they convert 45% of the passes that he throws into first downs? That's a pretty high number. I would say no, but I wouldn't be shocked if he came at least close. 45 is really high. That'd be like top 10 nationally as a passer, but it wouldn't shock me either because they should be in a lot of third and shorts with the run game, especially with them having to respect his running ability. And the RPO, it's possible, but also because they have a bevy of different athletes like Jalen Lucas, Rodell Williams, and all these different guys to get the ball to, whether running or throwing. And again, the RPO game is a nightmare for any linebacker or safety. Oftentimes, they kind of need to be in multiple places, literally at the same time. Not realistic, but that's just football today, and that's why offenses dominate. You don't know where the ball is going, and it's just not easy enough to react to get to that other spot in an RPO. And I think Castellanos will be a magician with it. So I think you're going to see dump off passes to Landon Thomas. I think he will be as good a third down tight end as there is in the country. And I also think that Squirrel White, while he may not get a ton of yards after catch, he's not super fast or anything. He's just very elusive. I think he will be a big part of that too. Teams will probably try to take Deuce away, and that's cool, but I don't think it'll be super effective because Florida State's got enough weapons on offense to get around it. Now, number 6 is the one we hear most about, and I talk about quite a bit too here on Locked On Seminoles. That's the offensive line. Will they be top 25 in rushing? I think they should be top 15 or so if everything went just right, meaning no injuries. There's no nice way to say this. The most important stat in football, are you healthy? You know, if you're like at the 90, 95 percentile, a guy's starting for you, you got a good chance to win that game. It's kind of random, but they've got 4 transfers in that are good. Got a few other guys competing. They should be a pretty quality offensive line, but I'm not sure about the depth. If they can stay healthy, yes, I think they should be a top 25 rushing team. They're not. I would want to know why. There's no excuse for them not to be. Number 7, also an O-line, 18 or fewer sacks. What do you got? I think this is about right on par with where it should be. Veteran offensive line. I know it's new guys, but they've all started, most of them more than 10 games coming into the season. Like, I get it that they haven't been able to gel because they're at a new school. This is a bunch of seniors. And you've got a ridiculously athletic quarterback. Yes, it needs to be under 18 sacks for the season. Number 8, 4-minute offense as it relates to O-line and running back. I want to start with running back on something here, and I don't have any idea what the answer to this is. How well will Florida State's running backs pass protect? Notice I didn't say anything about draws, running the ball, catching the ball. 100% about this question. Will they not just be good? Will they be elite in pass protection? I bring this up for 2 questions or 2 points, because it's a new offense, how they're going to ask to do it and all that may change a little bit. So that's an adjustment. And secondarily, I know that Jalen Lucas, not a very big guy. Is he going to be able to pass protect much? I'm guessing no. How they use him, and if he's in the lineup, do teams automatically blitz to his side? Like, there's little things that I'm curious to see how Gus Malzahn and the rest of the offensive staff adjust. Because if Lucas is in the backfield, I'm blitzing because he's 170 pounds. He's not going to hold up against a DN or outside. He's just not. That is my biggest concern. But as it relates to the offensive line, this is where it's more interesting. That 4-minute offense where you're just trying to get that 3 yards to continue the drive and you decide not to run it. Are they going to be good on sprint outs, bootlegs, screens, all the little things? It's all technique and timing. If you really want to run a 4-minute offense, you got to keep the other team off guard. It's not just run the ball every single play. That's a misnomer. You've got to be able to use your talent, even up front, in a manner where the other team doesn't know what's coming, misdirection, a naked boot, or maybe one guy rolls one way and comes back around with the quarterback. All the technical things. How good are they at it? I'm really curious to see that, because one of those plays could be a home run ball. If you give Thomas a little bit of extra time to throw, maybe you got to make a key block because somebody's barreling down on him. But if you're not using good technique, if you don't have the good feel for it, if you don't have the right chemistry with the other guys, any of those things can cause that play to be a -10 instead of a 70-yard touchdown. So I'm curious to see how they do there. Now, number 9 is just a really simple question. I'm not going to spend any time on this. It's just something I want everybody to think about. Deuce Robinson should be the most talented receiver. Is he clutch? Not talking about numbers, just in general. Whatever your own definition of clutch is he clutch? And secondarily, can he make some plays, like literally make catches in double coverage and beat it? I don't know the answer. The second one is really hard. I get it. But sometimes, think back 2 years ago, there were plays where Florida State just, they out-talented the other team. Deuce can do that, but will he? It's a new offense, new quarterback, all those things, again, come into question. I don't know, but that's a really important one. Number 10, Landon Thomas. Is he a priority within the game plan and in the moment with play calling, like 4th down and 2, bootlegs, short passes, pop pass in the red zone? I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. They've got to get the ball to him. If not, it would be a shame. Number 11, Florida State's young receivers in Squirrel White. If they are trying to take away Deuce and or Landon, by shading a linebacker or a safety. How consistent are they? I don't know what the answer to that will be. And then finally, red zone offense. Like I said earlier, Florida State's defense, like the Cal game, they won them the game in the fourth quarter, played really well in the red zone. Cal screwed that up, had some bad plays, but Florida State's defense helped too to make that happen, and they won. This year, Florida State's offense, they've got to be better in the red zone. I know they didn't get down there much, but they sure as heck didn't capitalize as much as they needed to either. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Florida State defense. How accountable will they be? That's next here on Locked On Seminoles. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first list each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk Seminoles with me. Please hit that like button, that subscribe, and make sure you share this podcast. And above all else, it helps the algorithm, especially on YouTube, if you comment down below. Defense. First question I have today, Shyheim Brown. Graduate student, is he going to be lining up everybody because he knows pretty much anything you're going to know about defense at this point? Now, I know he didn't get all the reps he wanted in spring, but he's a veteran to the point it's ad nauseum. Biggest concern I have on defense this year is everybody in the right spot, especially the Alabama game, not just because it's game one. Kalen DeBoer's offense is massively annoying to defend. Shifts, motions, and formations galore. It's not an algebra problem, it's calculus. There's no fixing that. They get to dictate it because they are the offense. Therefore, your veterans, your experienced players in the back seven have to be on point, or you will get smoked by the most generic play. You'll have some 255-pound tight end running down the field who's slow as all get out, but there's nobody within 15 yards of him. He's going to score. Are you lining everybody up right? And right before the snap, when you absolutely, unequivocally have to get everybody lined up because they did some kind of shift or somebody motioned into a bunch, whatever, do you get everybody where they need to be? It is split-second decisions and the ability to bark out some kind of order, and it's got to happen too. Like, everybody's going to be on the same page. Major responsibility. I think Brown will have a major say in that. I'm not saying he's the only one, but I think he is probably the one to get the most responsibility. And I am the one that's going to just go out and say, yeah, I like the experienced player in this, so I'm picking him in that regard too. Maybe Coach Tony White has a different idea, and that's fine. But my guess is it'll be Brown, that a lot of that burden falls on his shoulders. We'll see. But if that goes well, a lot of those stupid plays where like Florida State would have 3-4 good plays in a row on defense, and then they'd give up a 30-yard play. It's just like, what? Because somebody was out of position. How many times did we hear an announcer say, they were just caught in the wrong spot, or this guy took two players and went to the same gap, just out of position in general? I don't want to hear that anymore. And that's what I'm talking about here. And it also goes into the second one. Just going to say it. Not even going to go into this question because I kind of touched on it already. Run gap fits. How accountable will Florida State be? Because that was a major issue last year. 90% of the time they'd be good, but when they missed, it was like a Mack truck could go through. North Carolina game in particular was just absolutely abhorrent. So that cannot happen. To that point, how often is Darrell Jackson Jr. dominant, and is he accountable? Because sometimes guys are going to double him. He's not going to have a great play or a great series. That's cool. He's going to be playing nose guard part of the time and getting doubled. But when he gets his chances, is he hustling? Is he still going out all out when he knows he's probably going to get doubled in certain situations? Is he taking plays off? I'm just going to ask, because last year he did. Drove me bananas. He would make a great play, and then he'd turn around and loaf. A lot of people on the Locked On Seminoles YouTube page talked about it. And, well, to be honest, just across all the Florida State message boards that I check, see it on X and different Facebook, whatever. Not good, man. It's not a good look. You have to be able to be more accountable. To that point, this one is a little bit less important to me, but is James Williams, the transfer in from Nebraska, is he not just a good player, is he elite? Define elite however you want to do it. But if he is elite and Darrell shows up the way we think he is, Florida State's run defense in particular will be a possible top 25. They're going to be pretty beefy up front. They've got a little more depth. I'm kind of curious how it goes. But, I mean, I'm just going to spoil the next question, but like Kevin Wynn's coming off the bench. Like he's a good enough player as a freshman. He would start at probably 30-40% of the schools in the P4 by the end of his freshman year. Like even Indiana or Minnesota, pretty good teams, he would probably start by the end of the year. He's not going to do that at Florida State, but if those other guys are playing well and Kevin can reduce the reps that he has and come in and play like 15 snaps a game, good luck to the other teams. When you have a young bull like that that's 325, they can just go all out and knows he's only going to play 15 reps or so. Good luck to the opposition. All right. Besides Kevin Wynn, is anybody else coming up the ranks that really makes a major dent? A freshman, redshirt freshman. Kevin is the true freshman out of Georgia, played 1A football, but he was just an absolute wrecking ball. Does anybody else do it? I don't know for sure, but I think there's a chance. Number 7, is there a truly dominant defensive back? Somebody that is accountable in the sense, could be like Shaheem in a way. It's not about his stats. It's, again, the leadership, getting everybody lined up and all that. But is somebody good enough where the other team avoids that football player on Florida State's side because we're like, we don't want to mess with him. Our odds are better here. And it's known. So you can roll coverage, you can do different things, you can disguise things better. So when that guy does get attacked, every now and then you can jump a route or you can play robber or something in the middle of the field, whatever it is, you can adjust. And it's a smaller number of things you have to worry about because you know over here, you're not going to mess with him. We can concentrate on everything else over here. Playing chess, not checkers is what that is. If Florida State has a dominant DB, which historically they almost always do, they even did last year, even though they won 2 games, if they do, it changes your chances to go to a pretty good bowl game and just completely flip the script on your win-loss record. Next, turnovers and sacks. Last year, the sack thing, Florida State wasn't too bad at. They were pretty good at rushing the passer. Probably should have finished a little better than they were, but whatever. But the turnover thing was just insane. Part of it's bad luck, but part of it dropped passes when they had a chance to pick it. Not having enough effort consistently, and just not playing your technique right. What Florida State finished with, like 4 turnovers on the year, 5 turnovers. It was something pathetic. They were either dead last or right there close to dead last in turnovers that they had created. That cannot happen. Why did it last year? It's still a puzzle to me because as much athleticism and size as they have as Wright Thomas in the backfield, yeah, you still didn't. I don't know, but especially in the secondary with as many veterans they have and having a really good player coming from Houston. Jeremiah's coming in. Jeremiah Wilson, like that's a really good DB. They should be a turnover team. They should be one of the top teams in the ACC at bare minimum. If not, the accountability will be lacking there once again. Finally, like I mentioned earlier, Florida State's defense against Cal last year, that was a game where they played really well in critical moments, especially in the fourth quarter, to keep Cal out of the end zone, made them at least try to kick field goals, and that didn't always go so well for Cal. Can they have 2 or 3 more games in addition to the way they played against the Bears? Florida State's probably going to have to grind out some wins. Just as a reminder of this schedule this year, pretty traditional Florida State schedule. But while you lose the Notre Dame game, you have to play them, you still have Florida on the road. You've got Bama at home. You've got Miami at home. You're going to have Clemson on the road and NC State on the road. Now, NC State shouldn't beat Florida State, but nobody hardly should have beat Florida State last year, and they did. So we'll see. So in talking about red zone defense, that one time you bow up and just make them kick a field goal, that's a scenario when you get the ball back with 2 minutes and 25 seconds left. Instead of having going down the field and kicking a field goal to win, you just need a first down. Make the other team use their timeouts. If you get a first down and then just run out the clock. That's the difference between winning and losing. And again, chess, not checkers. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk a little Noles with me. Appreciate you coming in and learning again this time of the year, getting ready for the recruiting stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about the official visit weekend this week. I'm going to do a crossover edition with Locked On Seminoles and Locked On Syracuse this week to but it's primarily going to be about recruiting. Florida State must hit a home run every single weekend. And from now through the end of June, every day in some capacity, it's pretty much going to have some recruiting talk. And it needs to, because who's Florida State has coming on campus? Who did they already have? Who's going to make decisions? Who committed elsewhere? Who do you bring in? Kind of a surprise. But there's going to be all kinds of things that are just out of the woodwork. That is recruiting in 2025. And the Noles are playing catch up to some of the rivals on the roster talent. Critical year for recruiting for Florida State. So thank you once again. We will see you all again tomorrow here on Locked On Seminoles.